Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So now that the NFL draft is over and a couple of days have passed to really spend time researching every single pick, try to figure out why each individual selection was made by not only just the New York Jets, but for for every NFL team out there. I wanted to do my draft grade for the New York Jets. Now, instead of going through and grading each individual player, I think what I'm going to do is go through the entire draft, talk about every single pick, and then give my grade for the draft class as a whole at the end, as opposed to doing individual grades, because things get blurry because you never really know, if you add more context to a specific pick, then it can make, a lot more sense than if you maybe throw in different hypotheticals, then it can make the pick look a lot worse, things like that. So I don't want to get too crazy with it. So let's start with the first pick here, Olu Fashanu at pick 11, round 1. I love this pick. I really like this pick a lot, right? Especially considering that, Joe Alt was off the board, Marvin Harrison, Neighbors. I know there was a huge push for Rome Odunze. All these guys are off the board. And for me, Fashanu was probably, I would say 90%, he was going to be my draft pick, if I was Joe Douglas there at spot number 10. I love the ceiling. I love the overall potential that Fashanu brings, the pass blocking abilities, the college production, the Remington Pace Award winner, best offensive lineman in the Big Ten for 2023. We take a look at, other winners of that award. It's a long list. Linderbaum, Skoronski, Taylor Lewan multiple times. I mean, it's insane. I look at what Fashanu can do at the NFL level. I think he's going to have no problems at all in pass protection. And he just has so much room to get better, along with working with Tyron Smith, who's a former All-Pro and also is a guy known for, pass blocking here. So, I think the fit is going to be seamless. I felt like it was super important to continue to invest in the offensive line. It was really cool to see the behind the scenes look in One Jets Drive, and then also listening to Douglas in the post-draft interviews kind of talk about wanting to invest in the offensive line and how there was a lot of smokescreen about the Jets wanting to target an offensive weapon here. So I'm really happy that, in my opinion, he made the smart pick here with Fashanu. Moving on to round 3. We traded up. Originally, we had pick 72. We moved up a couple of spots to pick 65 to select wide receiver from Western Kentucky, Malachi Corley. Again, another pick that I really like here. He's not the biggest dude in the world, only 5'11", but he's 210 plus pounds. I mean, this dude, Corley is built low to the ground. He's explosive. He's just like a ball of muscle running around out there. I think, him in the slot is going to be really exciting. Him working in different pre-snap motion. I don't know how much pre-snap motion the Jets are going to be doing this season, because Aaron Rodgers has kind of voiced his opinion against it in recent years. But I think the point is, Corley is a multi-faceted type of player, right? There's a bunch of different ways to use Corley in the passing game, or even in the running game. I personally wouldn't rule it out. I think Corley, again, he has so much talent with the football in his hands to make guys miss, to, just turn on the afterburners, blow by guys. I think, of course, he's so much fun to watch, but he's a nice complement to Mike Williams on the outside, Garrett Wilson on the outside, Breece Hall, of course, at running back. I think Corley's going to be a really nice find for this Jets team. We just have to use him in the right way. Or right ways, rather. And I also think Corley's going to be an impact special teams player as well with the new rule coming in. He's a back-to-back first-team All-Conference USA player. That is huge. I think he actually had over 100 receptions back in 2022. So tons of starts, tons of experience, tons of production at the collegiate level. I think, man, he's really going to be a nice addition to this Jets passing, really the Jets offense as a whole. So next up, round 4 here, the New York Jets went with a running back, and I was not really expecting this, right? My kind of mindset was, we're going to go out and sign a veteran running back, cheap 1-year deal. Let's get somebody that has a different skill set to a Breece Hall. So, when Breece Hall has to come off the field, or in different in-game situations, it's not just Breece is the best in every single category, right? Breece is just the default in short yardage, in pass protection, little slip screen types of plays. outside, inside, it's just Breece. Red zone, it's just Breece Hall. He's just the best because he just laps every running back on the roster. So I was thinking maybe Zeke Elliott, cheap 1-year deal, goal line, 4th and shorts, 3rd and shorts, pass protection, somebody that can, if Breece Hall comes out of the game, we now have somebody, a veteran, somebody who's been there, done that, to step in and not look too rattled, not be worried about fumbling the football, things like that. Just, I kind of wanted a seasoned pro back there. But the Jets went with Braelon Allen, running back from Wisconsin. Now, funny enough, Allen was actually one of my favorite running backs in this class. He had back-to-back seasons in 2021 and 2022 with 1,200 plus rushing yards. Started in a bunch of games. I mean, he was the go-to running back for Wisconsin. In fact, he was actually second team All Big Ten in 2022, and then third team All Big Ten in 2023. You look at Wisconsin's offense in 21 and 22. It was led by Paul Chryst. They had a traditional under center, pro style offense, big emphasis on eating clock, big emphasis on trying to get movement up front with their offensive line, size, strength, power. I mean, we all know this with the whole Joe Tippmann selection, right? I feel like as Jets fans, we're familiar with how Wisconsin played under Chryst. But you look at this past season, they moved on from Chryst, right? He was fired. They bring in Luke Fickell, who is a complete 180 as far as like the offensive style is concerned, compared to Chryst. This is a wide open system, and Allen's production did dip because he was maybe more so a better fit for, that heavy rushing attack, but he was still productive nonetheless. He had over 900 rushing yards. And I think, for the New York Jets, it's interesting that we're not going to be adding a veteran to the room, and we're just adding another young player here, because you're not going to be selecting a running back in round 4 to say, we're barely going to use him. We don't really love him. We just kind of like him, and we have one real need for him. That is not the mindset at all if you're selecting a player in round 4. In round 4 here, you're taking a player in round 4 because you truly believe that this guy is going to be on the team for a long time. Somebody who can really develop into a consistent starter. So Braelon Allen, to me, I like the player. I like the college, what he was able to do at the collegiate level. I am concerned a bit about the volume, but I would not be surprised if Allen immediately jumps Izzy as the secondary back. And I think people are going to be really encouraged once preseason rolls around with Braelon Allen here. My question is just the divvy of snaps, right? How are the Jets going to figure out this running back room from a depth chart in regular season in-game volume perspective? Next up, round 5, Jordan Travis, quarterback, Florida State. This was one of those moves where you knew it was coming, right? The Jets, especially after the Zach Wilson trade. I mean, even if Zach was still on the roster, you kind of felt like the Jets were going to take a young developmental quarterback, given all the reports, all the visits, all the pro day visits, the scouting, the individual scouting at the quarterback position in so many different with so many different schools and prospects. But it kind of felt like throughout the process there were really two names that separated themselves compared to the rest: Michael Pratt and Jordan Travis. And lots of Jets fans, Jets fans were predicting this, I want to say, since like November, December. Jordan Travis, Michael Pratt in like virtually almost every mock draft. And then those predictions started to really ramp up again after the Zach Wilson trade. But the Jets go with Jordan Travis here. Great leader, a guy who's mobile, somebody who has, I would say, an underrated arm, somebody who can really put a lot of velocity on the football. It's not like Josh Allen, Joe Milton, Patrick Mahomes type, Aaron Rodgers type of status, Stafford. But it's, in my opinion, above average. I think people who watched Jordan Travis a lot at Florida State really saw somebody who can battle. If they get down early in the first quarter, it's certainly not over. He'll lower it, even though he's not the biggest guy in the world, he'll lower his shoulder, try to truck some guys over. I think Travis is going to work really well off of play action. Of course, he's going to be learning from Tyrod Taylor and Aaron Rodgers, 30 plus years of NFL quarterback experience. I think that is huge. He has no pressure on him to play right away. Awesome. He has an opportunity in preseason to kind of show a little bit here and there. I'm really excited about his future with the New York Jets, and also something to make a note of, he's coming off the best season of his career, right? ACC Player of the Year. Unfortunately, as we all know, had the lower body injury, a pretty serious one to end his Florida State career, but he ends up with the New York Jets here in round 5. I really like this pick. So next up, another round 5 selection here at 173. The Jets and Joe Douglas doubled down at the running back position, selecting South Dakota State running back Isaiah Davis. Super, super intriguing selection here because it kind of makes you ask the question, again, what is the plan at running back going to be? Of course, Breece Hall's the best running back on the roster. But again, you're selecting Braelon Allen in round 4. There's obviously high hopes for him. You already have Abadakonda on the roster, who was a draft pick made by Joe Douglas. The team made some questionable running back decisions a year ago, right? Of course, Dalvin Cook didn't work out, but they cut Michael Carter kind of randomly right in the midway part of the season. Bam Knight was a guy that a lot of Jets fans were excited about in the early parts of the year, and then he, ended up not making the squad. And now the Jets are looking at 4 young running backs: Breece, Braelon Allen, Izzy, and now Isaiah Davis. I mean, are the Jets really going to carry 4 young running backs on game day? Because you should not be drafting players with the mindset of, all right, he's going to be on the practice squad in round 5. Like that to me is just, of course, we're not talking round 1, round 2 here. I understand that, but. And look, if he's if he gets stashed on the practice squad or something, it is what it is. But it was definitely a head-scratching moment, not because of the player, because the player is awesome. He averaged a ton of yards per rush, had an extremely productive season in 2023. I believe he ran for over 1,500 receiving yards. The Jackrabbits are a powerhouse of a football team, and again, I like the player. It's just the positional, even if we went with another running back, right? This isn't just subjected to Davis alone. We could have went with any other running back in the country. It's just, again, I would like to ask JD, what's the plan at running back? 4 young running backs on the roster. We already had 2 a year ago who aren't even with the team anymore. Dalvin Cook didn't work out. To me, it's foolish to move on from Izzy, if that's the plan. But, again, we're sitting here right now asking the question, are we really going to be carrying 4 young running backs on game day? Typically you see 3, but who knows how it's going to play out. I'm excited for Isaiah Davis and really his opportunity in the preseason. Next up, pick 176, Qwan'tez Stiggers, corner from the CFL Toronto Argonauts. Now, this is a really, really interesting draft selection here, right? Because right off the bat, it's coming from the CFL. But you look at the production in the CFL. He did not play college football, but the CFL production was awesome, right? Had a bunch of interceptions, great size. He projects to the NFL well. There's a lot of teams that had interest in Qwan'tez throughout the draft process, especially in those, mid-April weeks leading up to the draft. It really felt like he was going to get drafted at some point. I just didn't know that it was going to be the New York Jets pulling the trigger. I also felt like he made a lot of sense for the Buffalo Bills in the later rounds, but he started 16 games for Toronto a year ago, and, as far as trying to project him to the NFL level, because he's coming from the CFL and has literally no college football experience, it's tough to project where he's going to fall on the depth chart, right? Now, the Jets did bring in Isaiah Oliver. We clearly have the first 3 cornerback slots locked in. Brandon Echols is also on the team. So an interesting selection here for sure. And then last but not least, pick 257, the whole Mr. Irrelevant draft selection. It was Jaylen Key, strong safety from Alabama. In my opinion, really good value. I thought that he was going to get drafted maybe a little bit earlier in like the late round 6, early round 7. Somebody who had production at Alabama. And I also feel like Key checks some boxes that when you look at the New York Jets depth chart, they don't really have a lot of, right? I think, again, this was a really nice find for Douglas, for Saleh, for Ulbrich here with the literal last pick in the draft. So for me, when I'm scanning the entire draft, I don't think it was perfect, but I think it was really damn good. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a B. B to a B+. I think we added guys that are great for the culture. I think we added guys that are system fits. I think we added building blocks that, in some cases really help out in the short term, but almost in every case we got guys that are going to be helping out in the long term. And of course, you can make that argument with every single team drafting every single year, right? At every single pick, you're drafting for the future. All these guys have, potential that has yet to be reached. But I think specifically with the New York Jets, we hit night one on April 25th with offensive line question marks, wide receiver question marks, depth concerns, injury concerns, right? We still had a lot of concerns regarding this roster. And especially with the first three picks, Olu, Corley, and Braelon Allen, we added three guys that I feel like could be staples for this Jets team for at least the next 5 years. And I think in the case of Fashanu, he could be the team's future left tackle for the next decade, right? 10 years could go by, and Fashanu can still be the team's starting left tackle. I think that is really, really important. And throw on top of it that the Jets traded back a slot. So we recouped a couple of extra picks. We picked up a pick in next year's draft as well. I believe it was 2025 draft pick. It was we traded a 2020 or we traded John Franklin Myers and got a 2026 sixth round pick in return, which was not good value whatsoever. But so we got some instant impact players. We got some guys with really high ceilings. Again, guys that fit the system, fit the culture, both on offense and defense. Picked up some future picks. I think a B to a B plus is fair. It's so difficult to get an A plus draft. I think there's really only 4 to 5 teams that won the draft. But I'll say this, I really can't look at a team and say, man, that they blew it, right? They're a loser of this draft cycle. I know there's a lot of people coming down on Atlanta because the whole Michael Penix pick, which is understandable. Personally, I don't mind the Penix pick that much. I like Penix as a prospect. I think he fits well with Atlanta. I think, his deep ball in the dome is going to be crazy with the offensive weapons. He does not have to play right away. My concern with Atlanta is the Kirk Cousins contract. Basically, when everybody knew Michael Penix was coming out. When free agency was starting and they ended up giving Cousins that huge, the 4-year contract, over $100 million in guaranteed money, like there had to be some belief within the organization that they could land Michael Penix. And I'm not saying don't sign anybody, just draft Penix and play him right away. I just feel like if you're the Falcons, you could have probably just signed Ryan Tannehill, 1 year, $15 million. Of course, Tannehill is not as good as Cousins. There's a drop off there, but you would have saved $80 million in guaranteed money, which you can now invest in pass rush or whatever you need. So I think maybe that's kind of the route that I would have taken if I was Atlanta. Go with the cheaper option, Tannehill. He could roll out there for a season, and then you put Penix in at the start of 2025, save $85 million, as opposed to Cousins 36 coming off the injury and it's $100 million guaranteed. Now you're potentially pissing him off with drafting Penix. I think that whole storyline is a bit overblown in my opinion. Cousins hasn't played a snap for Atlanta. It's not like he's a club legend or anything. I think there has to be. Again, I don't mind the Falcons drafting a quarterback, right? Really trying to make sure that they have that position figured out. But it's just, if you do go down that route at pick number 8, why did this team give out $100 million to Kirk Cousins? So that's my only, concern for a team that has been talked about as, the loser of the draft. But anyway, B to a B plus for me. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. What's your draft grade? Thanks so much, and as always, go Jets.